All right, guys, we're going to roll on here and get started. We're going to talk about HyperDocs today. And you guys are already pretty familiar with HyperDocs because we've been using HyperDocs. So the 5Es model that we have implemented in the district learning template is actually an example of a HyperDoc. And we want to show you today the power of a HyperDoc and talk about how they're so beneficial with kids and the purpose of them. We're going to show you some examples and let you dig into them. We're going to create, hopefully after our PD, we're not going to keep you on for this part, but we would like you to start, you've already been doing this, but maybe looking at some new ideas and some new examples, maybe invent something new today. And then maybe have a short little reflection about how these can specifically benefit students. So the 5Es model wasn't something that we just pulled and made up ourselves. It's a highly researched, well-known, frequently used template to integrate technology into classrooms. So as we look at these examples today, you'll see the 5Es is a constant theme through most of the templates. So this is something that is really well known. Anybody that does my job will definitely know the 5Es and the power and purpose and impact. So we want you to know that we were really strategic when we were selecting this template because we really feel this is a great way to definitely bring us further into our tech acquisition and also make it really effective for our learners. So I'm going to start by showing you a quick little video. And actually, I'm going to start by giving you a little introduction. So HyperDocs are basically what we've been doing. They're these interactive Google Docs or Google slide decks. And it's not a worksheet on a student desk, but it's really putting learning in the hands of kids. So I think that if by using the 5Es model over the last few weeks, I'm hoping that you've seen that power, right? Where it's not necessarily you being the stage on the stage, it's really kids doing the work and kids coming up with their explanations and kids transferring knowledge and you being there to support them and also offering opportunities for creativity and innovation for our students. So HyperDocs include resources, questions, activities. They're flexible, they're versatile, they're K-12 and beyond. They're applicable across contents and grade levels and subjects. And we just really think that they're very universal in nature and super helpful when we're having kids do different tasks online and very student-centered. So they're great for sharing, for kids to share what they're learning, to have these conversations, to be collaborating, to post information. We can use them as graphic organizers to collect information. They're really powerful for us as educators. I know I've talked about this in different PDs where, before I was using technology, I was grading everything by hand and putting things in different piles based on the kids' understanding of the concept. And that would maybe take me a couple days. But what's nice about these HyperDocs is we have these built-in formative temperature checks constantly. So I'm constantly taking the temperature of my kids and seeing how they're doing with their learning so that I can better support them and create scaffolds for them to have the best, most successful learning experience possible. So, and again, this empowering learners, we were talking about this yesterday, I think this is our goal, right, as teachers, right, where we want kids asking good questions and we want kids to be able to figure things out on their own. We want them to be able to know how to research and research well and be able to find the answers and be able to do things independently. And not saying that we're not there for that face-to-face support, because I think that is equally, if not more important. But really putting the power and instruction and the tools in the hands of the kids instead of us maybe spoon feeding it to them, we're giving them a little bit more structure and resources to let them, be in charge of their own learning. So some benefits and that we really like about HyperDocs is, even on our district learning template, we have that first page where we were very cognizant where we're deciding what do we want kids to know at the end of this week? What do we want kids to understand? What skills should they have picked up? What vocabulary is being introduced? What standards, right? And I know some people think that that's kind of just, a waste in some sense because they think the kids can't understand it. But I think that that's a really important opportunity to have a discussion with kids of really transparent, this isn't a gotcha moment at the end of the week. I'm not trying to trick you. I want you to know this, this, and this by Friday or by the end of this lesson, however you laid it out. And I think that that transparency for kids not only gives them confidence, but it also lets them know, like, I know when I was in school, sometimes I felt like I was on a roadmap and I really didn't know where I was going, right? And I think kids, by telling them, and depending on the grade level, how you explain it to them, but if you say to them, this is what you have to be able to do by the end of this to meet the standard or to be successful. And I think that that's really powerful. And again, instead of kids, well, I'm waiting for my teacher to tell me this, kind of have that foresight of like, this is what I have to be able to do or accomplish. We talked about this a lot this year when we did PDs. We talked about, transitioning from those Dreambox and Freckle, and all those things are really awesome. But having kids create things and having kids, be in charge of their learning and be able to go different ways and maybe have several different topics and discussions happening in your classroom at once, even though we're all constructing the same standard or working on the same standard. They're customizable. They're great for differentiation. They're awesome for chunking. I know a lot of kids, even myself as a learner, I like to chunk things and take small steps or small doses at a time. And then they're really good between multiple different subjects. So we're going to talk about two different things today, multimedia text set and a HyperDocs. So we're going to talk about both. A multimedia text set is where kids explore, where they're learning the content, where you're giving them several different resources to learn whatever it is you're teaching them. So this is where I would give my kids a video, a reading, an audio, a graphic organizer. This is where they're collecting the content. So this is that explore component. And then a HyperDoc is a bit different because it's more, it's two-directional. I'm also collecting feedback. We're extending, we're reflecting, we're differentiating. And it's that all-encompassing packaging of our lessons, a HyperDoc. So a multimedia text set, in my mind, lives within a HyperDoc for that explore component, where kids are learning about content or subject or skill or whatever the case may be. All right, so HyperDocs can look multiple different ways, and we're going to see these today. They can be slide decks. I'm going to show you this example in archaeology. And what's really nice is I'm going to share with you guys a website today on HyperDocs, and they've curated several different lessons that you could take some of these and adapt them and make them your own, because they're pretty well built. Most of them are. So everything here that's in this lime green is something that teachers would have to edit before they push this out to students. But this is about archaeology, and it gives some like engaging strategies, and kids are collaborating and talking and watching videos and responding on a Padlet. And I really want to draw your attention to this slide right here, this vocabulary slide. And I know that in middle school social studies, this is something that's huge for us, right? Vocabulary is a really, really tough component of what we teach, because kids will come across a vocabulary word and they'll be like, that's unfamiliar, I've never seen that before, and think, I can't do this problem, or I can't answer this question, right? So as good teachers, we're looking at, and we probably have taught the subject, all of us here are, teachers that have been doing this for a while. We know where kids hit those roadblocks, right? We know where those misconceptions typically lie. And one of the things I like about HyperDocs is how we can scaffold. So for example, this one is an archaeology. So maybe kids have never seen this word. But what I would recommend with vocabulary in our HyperDocs is add links in, add a hyperlink, define the word, put a short video clip with you explaining the word. Give the kids some Velcro to let this new information stick to. And so one thing about HyperDocs is, again, like that differentiation. So maybe I need to learn that vocabulary where I've never seen it before, and I need more information. And Ms. Hamilton has built that video in, so I can go in and I can listen to what that word means. And as a student, I hated raising my hand in class. I hated it. I wouldn't do it. I would rather sit there probably and not know than risk looking like a fool, right? Especially in middle school. And so if Ms. Hamilton builds that into her lesson and I can click on that link and I can learn what that word is, now I have more Velcro, right? I can probably get a better understanding when I'm reading a question or asked to do a task where that word is incorporated into my text. I'll have a little bit more familiarity, and maybe I'll be a little bit more confident, and it makes it a different, like it gives me a new entry point, right? Where before I might have been not even able to access the material. Now at least I have an entry point. So I really encourage you with vocabulary to spend some time. We probably know where kids fall short in vocabulary with the subjects we're teaching, but by giving kids that scaffolded instruction and also, those conditional supports, I really feel it's powerful. And I always taught in a spec ed situation. I always taught TAM. And I can tell you that that was one of the best strategies that I implemented in my classroom because those kids didn't ask. And those kids would have, rather done anything than look silly, right? Working in a small group, they might ask, but just building that in and also being able to rewatch it and re-listen and hear it again, I think is so beneficial. So that's one of the things that I think make HyperDocs really powerful and why I'm so passionate about them. Another example would be a Google Doc. So we can use these in docs or slide decks, and they look a little bit different, but they both serve a similar purpose. So this one is about heading to a new school, and you can see here where the kids are asked to do some different tasks. They're, thinking about goals and setting personal goals for their next year. They're looking at the school website and they're learning about what opportunities are available to them. So, this could be something personal for kids too. It doesn't always have to be this academic, situation or strategy where we're learning content and standards. This could be something for kids where they're learning about a new school or they're, setting personal goals. And I really like that this one is a nice graphic organizer where kids are kind of organizing their thoughts and setting up some new, learning some new things about the school that they're going to be transitioning to. And I wanted to purposely share this one because with remote learning, usually in the spring, we bring kids to the next school. Like I know our 8th graders usually visit high school, right? We didn't get to do that. So maybe something like this would be powerful for our kids to at least familiarize themselves. All right, so let's skip back here. I want to show you this little clip here. All right, so again, you saw that similar 5Es model that we're implementing as a district popping up. And now I'm gonna share one more little video clip for you guys, and we're gonna move on to our next little segment.
Take your lesson from teacher-centered doc to student-centered HyperDoc. Take your lesson from teacher-centered doc to student-centered HyperDoc. HyperDocs are easily created via templates or from scratch as a Google Doc and can be distributed to students through Google Classroom. Each student or group accesses the interactive document to take full advantage of the personalized learning made possible through a digital lesson. This example adapts the 5E lesson model from science to create a personalized learning experience and embeds differentiation into the assignment by allowing students to express their understanding on their own terms. HyperDocs can contain instructions for activities, house links to resources, and provide areas in the doc for students to link to content they create elsewhere. Students can also be given the choice to complete part of the task independently or collaboratively at their preferred pace. A HyperDoc allows teachers to carefully tailor the links and tools used by students to create fun and engaging lessons that empower learners to seek, find, and express what is curious to them. HyperDocs can be created for an array of purposes and do not have to encompass an entire lesson. Individual activities can use HyperDocs as an integral element for creating interactive review games, discussion activity protocols, curated activity resource pages, or for detailed and extended article analysis. HyperDocs can be adapted to any content and made suitable for any age group, from HyperDocs that are read aloud which guide and enhance story time for kindergarten students, to science lessons for elementary students, all the way to collaborative projects for high school social studies students. HyperDocs can easily be aligned with the most effective learning modalities for any content in any subject area and any grade level. There are already a dazzling array of templates as well as sample lessons and activities available to try today. So say goodbye to the one-size-fits-all classroom. Well-crafted HyperDocs can create blended learning environments which guide, mentor, and facilitate individualized learning and allow students the opportunity to work collaboratively and express themselves and their understanding with 21st century tools.
All right. So I'm going to pass the baton over to Andrea and Dawn. We're going to switch this up a bit. We're going to do a little bit more of a discussion. So you can see here we did our engage where we talked about what it was. We showed you that little video clip. And now we're going to explore. So this is where we're digging in and we're learning about the content, or we're learning about the subject matter, or we're learning about the standard, whatever the case may be. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to share with you guys this document actually. I'll share it to you actually in the web-based form. And then I want you to open up your chat, and I'd like you to click on this link. And then I'd like for you guys to actually go down to the part where we're in Explore. And you're going to click on this Explore with the multimedia text sets. So I mentioned that multimedia text sets live within the document, or live within the HyperDoc. And this is where we're going to do our research. I just want to skip back to a few more things here. So again, on this Explore, you can look at the examples. And then we got
Katie, do you remember what are those girls, the HyperDoc girls, or I can't remember what they go by, but
Lisa and Sarah.
But yeah, there are these ladies who have built a ton of HyperDocs, and they're three ladies. I feel like they go by the HyperDoc girls or something like that. But anyway, if you ever get a chance, they've already done a lot of this work. Like Katie just said, you could really just take something that's already been built and just adapt it to fit what you need.
And listen, guys, start small, think big, but just baby steps. On your HyperDoc I shared out with you, there's a Padlet link. I'd love for you to bounce some ideas off of, what do you think? And as a district PLC, how can we use these, and how could these benefit kids? And maybe if you find one that's really exceptional, or you create one, we'd love for you guys to share those out, because for Dawn, Andrea, and I, we can take what you've learned and your thoughts and your feelings and what works well to share out with everybody. So your opinion and your feedback is really important to us. Because what you know and what you learn along the way, by sharing that with someone else, it could save them some time and energy and all those good things. So that is on there. And then finally, there are some steps on here for getting started. There's a nice little planning tool here that I embedded. There's some 5Es templates. They look a little bit different than our district one. There's some different versions where kids are asked to extend, or there's some additional tasks involved that I thought were really cool spins. I've also put some resources. So if you recall, when we did our planning for our 5Es, we talked about different tech tools that are nicely integrated with the 5Es. So I wanted to put that on here as a refresher, because I do think that this is a really great tool to get us started. And furthermore, I found on the HyperDocs website this blog about end of the year HyperDocs that I thought was really well done. It's in a Wakelet, so it's a way to curate a lot of information. And that HyperDocs website, guys, it is really up to date. There was just a blog post that was posted on May 31st. So there is just so much on there, and there's so much information that I think is valuable and worthwhile. So please, 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 we'd love for you. We don't want to hold you on here too much longer, but we'd love for you to take some time and start building a HyperDoc, or at least taking one that someone's already made and adapting it to your kids. So I also put some strategies on here where we are thinking about the end in mind, and that's why when we pushed out the HyperDoc, we were really purposeful in that first page and planning where we want kids to go. Use things you already have. You already have great things, I'm sure, that we could easily embed. This doesn't have to be all digital, especially when we go back to the classroom. Talk to colleagues, reach out to us, whomever you feel comfortable, but definitely collaborating. That tools, this distance learning is a great place to start to figure out which tools you want to integrate, and if you want to do a doc or a slide, and some of you guys already shared a preference with those two. And then finally start creating your HyperDoc and thinking about those 5 E's and how they look, the brainstorm, the investigation, the summarizing, the transferring, and the assessment piece. So, and again, we like to think about adding those little temperature checks throughout and getting kids formative feedback as they complete some of these tasks so we know how they're doing. And it's not a surprise to us at the end of like, whoa, Katie was really lost in the sauce. How did I miss that? I'm checking constantly throughout this learning process so that we don't have that happen at the end and a kid is failing and we had no idea. So I think that this is a great place to start with HyperDocs. That website has, like I mentioned, a ton of information. This is where you can find it. Look at these templates and kind of go from here. And again, if you are so willing, we'd love for you to share out on that. Oh my gosh, what's it called?
Survey.
Padlet.
Padlet.
Okay, so share out on that Padlet what you're
It's
finding.
been a long year.
Yes, but you can see, guys, there's so many good things that are on here that just you could definitely use as a launch pad.
I love using template. I do.
Questions, comments, thoughts? What are you guys thinking? Feedback? Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to check out the website that I've created that includes several more resources, tutorials, and information. You can find it at bit.ly/LFSD Tech. Have a great day.